Hello and welcome to week 10 in statistics. And this week we're going to be going into some of our first tests regarding determining significance and cause-effect relationships. We talked about significance in terms of correlations. We're still not moving into cause-effect. So I'll contextualize the lecture today in terms of that. We are going to be looking first at the power of the normal distribution when we have a normal distribution available to us to use. These are basically the application of standardized tests. When we have those kinds of tools available for us, it is relatively easy to determine whether our application has created an unusual change in a person's score on that particular test. So let's say we're looking at the SAT. I'll probably use that as an example. And we take classes out there that are advertised to raise our SAT scores. Is it worth it? The question we're going to ask is it worth it? If I get if this class can get me a certain number of points up, is it significant? And is it worth the money? That's kind of, look at that by looking at our raw scores and comparing them to standard scores. These are going to be easily done because we're going to simply convert our scores to z-scores. And we've already talked about that. We've talked about z-scores as a tool where the score is a unit of standard deviation, and we know how many standard deviations above or below the mean something has to be on a normal distribution in order for that to be significant, or a change in order for that to be significant. So that's what we're going to be looking at today in our first part. Then we're going to be looking in chapter 10 about the difference between when we work with z-scores, essentially standardized scores, and when we don't have that. So it's going to be a little bit of review of the t-test, which is you have the z-test when you have standard scores. The t-test is when you don't have standard scores. And we'll have sort of some discussion about the use of standardized tests and why that's so popular in psychology is because you have standard scores. T-tests are a little bit more error prone because we're making estimates as to what our population would look like. So we'll kind of quickly cover the t-test, which are going to occupy the next couple weeks in class. And so first we'll learn how to do z-test and z-conversions, z-score conversions. Then we're going to discuss, when we use z-test and when we use t-tests, preparing for the next week when we will get into our first t-tests. And so I look forward to that. This is fun discussion. I hope you're really kind of getting the idea of how we use statistics to make these decisions. I'm getting a sense the class is on board with that and kind of explain some of the things that we experience when we read the literature. So look forward to seeing you folks this afternoon, and we'll have a good week. Take care.